Assalamu alaikum everyone. A warm welcome to today's interview session. I'm Nahil Forest Wali and I'm honored to be host for today's interview. I'm from Karachi, Pakistan and our special guest today is Miss Ola. We are delighted to have Miss Ola here with us and we look forward to getting know more about her life journey and experience. Miss Ola, we are eager to
Hello.
Hello Miss Ola, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
I'm sorry, my internet was
That's
not
okay.
working, but alright, thank you. Without further ado, let's begin our conversation and explore the remarkable story of Miss Ola. Welcome, Miss Ola. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Thank you. So, first of all, please introduce yourself for my viewers.
Hello, my name is Ola Farag. I'm from Cairo, Egypt. I've been an educator for about 18 years now, an enthusiastic, passionate educator. I love learning and I love my students. I'm also a full time mother of three, and I've been a teacher for biology for the last 10 years and also an HOD, a head of department in various schools.
Alright, thank you for your introduction. So, my first question is that can you tell us more about your teaching experience and how it aligns with our school's values and goals?
I have a very vast experience in a lot of schools. It allowed me to enter versatile environments and learn from each environment. Each school is unique with its goal, mission, and vision. In every year of my teaching, I always align my curriculum to match with the vision and mission of my school. Which allows me to have an initiative for students to become more aware of their mission and vision, of their future's mission and vision, and to be well aware and يعني accumulated to the school mission and vision and overall atmosphere, which help in their learning.
Alright, thank you for sharing. So, how do you approach creating engaging lessons that encourage critical thinking among students?
So, with a lesson plan, I always start with an objective. Accommodating students and making them used to having an objective before every stage of their lives. Like, for example, I have objectives for the unit when I start a unit. I have objectives for a certain lesson when I start a lesson. I have objective for each session. So in each time planned, you need to have an objective and you need to have the students well aware of these objectives and understand it completely. So they need to build their expectations of how they will achieve these objectives. They need to have their own plan of how they would reach this objective. Afterwards, I start planning my procedure of how approaching this objective and how actually to fulfill this objective. My plan would always includes hands-on activity and interactive lesson. It will always include collaborative, group-wise collaborative environment. My groups are always heterogeneous, meaning that they include all the levels of the students. So we have a high achiever, and we have an on level student, and we have a below level student. So, and we have a struggling students also in this group, which will help peer teaching and will help them to kind of collaborate and have a common goal on their working while they're working on this certain objective. And I always tend to build this trusting relationship with my students, which will allow me always to understand their needs. So if you have a good relationship with the students, that means that you understand his or her needs, what the requirements to have to actually engage them into the learning process. And this is what I usually do.
Mashallah, that's great. So, describe a time when you face challenges in maintaining high expectations and academic performance and behavior. How did you handle it?
So I teach high school and middle school. Middle school are always challenging students. So each year I will be faced with new challenges that expect me to, that the school administration expects me to deal with it. So each student has his or her individualized needs. So you need to build your expectation around those individualized needs in order to communicate well with the students. So, number one, you need to build a respectful relationship. You need to build a trustworthy relationship. You need to build a communicative relationship. So, you need to listen, and you need to expect to be heard in return. You understand? So, we're
Yeah.
friends based, but friends with mutual respect. You understand me? So each year I will be faced with new challenges. So, for example, last year I had a student with a very bad anger management issue. But she was this super intelligent girl. Like, she was extremely smart. And this is how I approached her. However, I find her going out to her own anger issues. I would approach her, hug her, or even tell her that I extremely value you. You're a very smart student. Or distract her when it reaches its maximum, when her anger reaches its maximum level, distract her with a little bit of a scientific problem. She's very smart and she's very determined on answering every difficult thing, even way above her level. So each student have her needs or his needs, which a good teacher will always accumulate himself with those needs, be as flexible as possible to be able to address those needs and actually fulfill them in order for the learning process to continue.
All right, thank you for sharing.
Welcome.
So now let's move on to next question. How do you differentiate your instructions to meet the diverse learning needs of student in your classroom?
So, as I said, I always start with objectives. So, my objectives are always up to the levels. They can do it, they can achieve it. So, always addressing the on level students' needs while putting those objectives. So, the objectives are not way less than the high achiever level and not way above the low achiever levels. So you need to put your standards and put your objectives of each unit, of each chunk of the curriculum according to the needs of the own level students, and then accumulate from there. So the high achiever, you need to always keep them challenged so they didn't get bored. The low achiever, you need always to address the learning difficulty. So some of them, they have an English language problem. So they have, I'm teaching in English. So they have a language barrier to address. So you need to simplify your instructions as much as possible for them. Some of them having difficulty in facing the practical work of the, or the practical side of science. Some of them is bored from science. So you need to address all these needs with their own individualized plan. So at the end, you have a heterogeneous mixture of students. You have a very good objective to start with. You have a plan that includes addressing all the needs of your students. And as you go along with them through the year, you tend to understand them better. And then you tend to put your lesson plans more suitable to their needs and more accustomed to their needs. So it gets easier through the year, and it gets easier when you have, for example, a certain student's grade that you taught for many years, for many successive years. So you have learned them, you have learned about their needs, and you can always accumulate the lesson plan to be uh, um, well suitable to their need and answering their needs. So that's how I do.
All right. So, how do you establish a positive and inclusive classroom environment where each student feels valued and respected?
Okay, so as I said, number one, it starts with a good objective and understanding the mission and vision of your school. Uh, it follows that your classroom always needs to be engaging. It You as a teacher you don't need to be intimidating or fearful or always angry with a commanding voice. You need to have a chaotic class, but an organized chaos class where each student actually knows what is required from him or from her at the end of this session. So you start by building your lesson plans, and you start by being flexible. So maybe during the lesson I will change something that I thought that I put in the lesson plan and it would have worked, but I need to be flexible during my session to change this or that if I found that they're not suitable for my students. You understand? So the procedure that you put for your students, the planning that you plan ahead, the understanding of your students' need, the respecting that you have a mission to fulfill inside my class, and the teacher being respectful for students' needs and students' age. You understand? So this all these factors together, they will help building a respectful, inclusive, and engagement classroom.
All right, thank you for sharing. So, can you share an example of successful project or activity you implemented in the classroom that had a significant impact on student learning?
So it wasn't actually my classroom. I used to be a head of department in one of the school. It's an Islamic school in Egypt and in Cairo, and it was by far one of the best environment that I've worked with. Having a safe working environment always help students, teachers, and administrator to give their best in
Yeah.
order to fulfill the achievement of the school and fulfill the mission and vision of the school. So in this classroom, it was actually one of my teachers, and she was building a new project about and she was addressing human effect. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Manahil, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
So the project was building a mall that will actually fulfill the criteria, a certain criteria. So we divided students into two groups. One of them was counselors, and the others were engineers. The first group is supposed to put criteria for the engineer to build this mall, and the engineer is supposed to design uh, 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 um, give their designs and design the mall so it reduces the human impact on this environment, on this forested area, and it was actually magnificent. The students, the counselor students, they build this amazing criteria, which honestly, I didn't think that the engineer students could fulfill them. But amazingly, they showed up after 2 weeks with models that kind of left us in ew. Wow, we didn't imagine that they can reach this stage. They were grade seven, so they were somewhat children. Right now, they must be graduated high school already. So I was so proud of this achievement, and they were so proud of themselves. The counselor, they went back and they were kind of a responsible men, and they took over the responsibility of actually assessing their students, their peers' models, which were very engaging to both the counselors and the engineers, which I found extremely successful.
Thank you so much for sharing this. I like this very much. So now let's move on to next question. How do you involve parents or guardians in the question? Education process and maintain effective communication with them.
So, parents, they are part of the educational process. They need to be very well aware, starting from the curriculum, starting from the standards which the school is following, ending with the grades, the curriculum, the procedure that I follow each day. So me as a head, I'm responsible for sending them newsletters of what is the curriculum expectations after this year. After by the end of this year, their son or their daughter will be able to do that. I'm promising them that. And to achieve that, we need your help. So your help will be I need to address their role. I need to make them fully understand because some of them are new parents. This is their first child coming to middle school. So you need to put that in mind. Some of them are very experienced parents. So this is the last child. So you need parents to communicate with the others, tell them their experience and how they will overcome hardship because we will face hardship in the learning process always. Each stakeholder must be able to cooperate and collaborate with the other stakeholders in order to achieve perfect learning opportunity for the students because what this is what we're doing, parents, school community, or even peers, we are all working together to advance the student's level, to make him suitable for the workforce in the future, to make him suitable for achieving his individualized dreams. So we need to all collaborate and communicate with that, starting by communicating the curriculum and standards that we're following, ending with the everyday procedure and communicating some of the problems that we face and I need the parents' help in and etc. So the communication must be always back and forth between me and the parents. Otherwise, like we said in Egypt, so you can clap with one hand, right? So you need both hands, all stakeholder to achieve the goal. So parents are incredibly important for the learning process to be active, fulfilling, and easier.
All right, thank you for sharing. So, how do you stay updated with current educational trends and research to enhance your teaching practices?
So, life is an ongoing learning experience. This is what I say. So, you need always to be updated. You need to have a continuous workshops where you actually engage in the new pedagogical ways of teaching science and administration in order to be up to date with your students and teachers. This is number one. Number two, you need to have always certificates. So I took two diplomas in the methodologies of teaching science, and the other one in STEM track in building STEAM or STEM curriculum and the interdisciplinary approach of teaching. And I'm planning to take the third one. I'm planning to have a master's degree. So you need to always update yourself with certificates, with diplomas, with workshops, whatever you can put your hands on, that's speaking about the most recent and the most interactive way of learning, whatever that advances your learning abilities. You must do that as an educator.
All right, thank you for sharing. So, describe a time when you had to address conflict or difficult situation with a student or colleague. How did you handle it? What was the outcome?
So I have two situations. One of them, I was actually losing the battle, and the other is me just stepping away from the battle without actually waiting for the outcome, because I was sure the outcome will not be as I expected. So the first one, I was an administrative in one of the school, the biggest school in Egypt, and it was actually a very pronounced school. It's a beautiful school in Egypt. I had 64 classes to run, and I had more than 14 teachers. One of them was older than me and was much more experienced than me in this school, in this specific school. She had about 16 years of experience in this school alone. So she understands every single stone in the school. I don't. I was new to this school. So her conflict was, number one, why would they hire someone from outside school and not me? So I started addressing that by actually making friends with her, asking her about advice, promoting her in the staff room, giving her more of um, more role and more responsibilities than a usual teacher will. But that was not fulfilling for her. So she started making this intended and intentional mistakes in her teaching, mistakes that a new teacher will not be doing. I started addressing that one by one, but I found out that it has stressed my home life. So I have three kids, as I told you before, and it was like I'm always stressed, and I'm always thinking about her. I'm always thinking about how to answer that. So I came to a point, it's either my husband, my kids, or this school. Though I enjoyed working there very much, but I had to choose my kids over it. So unfortunately, I did not see the result of my approaches with her. I hope that she've learned the lesson, of course, but not sure. And she was this great educator, but all her problem was concentrated on me. So maybe I thought at the end, if I left the school, then she's going to be much better. And I'm hoping that this is what happened. The second one is with a student last year. Now, this student, he had number of problems. He came from, he just newly moved to Cairo. He doesn't understand how things is going around in international schools. He has a little bit of language barrier, a lot of language barrier, so he couldn't communicate with students in English. And he had this thought about being the control man and leader inside the classroom. So he didn't allow anyone to speak without his permission. And he had this wonderful leadership. This is a quality actually that you need to promote for students. But he used it in a whole wrong way. So at one point, I started a kind of a leadership conflict with him, which was completely wrong approach with the students, because he had very strong and determined and actually an angry situation to deal with things. Afterwards, I learned his needs, and I learned how to address being more diplomatic with him. But I lost a lot of battles, طبعا, in the process of that. But this is how things go in a learning process. It comes and goes, it comes and goes. Sometimes you lose, sometimes you win. But at the end, they are gaining experience of how to deal with you, and I'm dealing experience of how to deal with them. So that's it.
All right, thank you so much. Before we wrap up, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Miss Ola Farag for taking the time to share her valuable insights and experiences with us. During our conversation, we explored various aspects of Mr. Ola's journey, including her teaching methodologies, approaches to student engagement, and her dedication to creating positive learning environment. Miss Ola journey has truly inspired us all to strive for excellence to our own teaching experiences and to prioritize holistic development of our students. On behalf of everyone present here, I would like to extend our heartfelt thank you, Miss Ola, for sharing her
Thank you.
knowledge, expertise, and passion for education. As we come
Thank
to
you.
the end of this interview, I would like to thank all the participants of their presence and engagement. May we all continue to learn and grow in our pursuits of educational excellence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Have a wonderful day ahead.
All right.